Hello, everybody. This is the Western Area meeting for today, and today is Thursday, August 18th. And I want to wish everybody thank you for coming here today. And we have a special guest named Audrey G. So I'm going to mute everybody, and I'm going to make her a spotlight so she can talk and give a presentation. If you like to ask questions, I have forwarded her a couple questions already. But if you want to ask questions, put it in the chat, or later on we have Q&A, okay? So I am going to now mute all. And when you, let's see, okay. And Audrey will be spotlight. And Audrey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and about the presentation. There you go.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Audrey G. I think people may know that I'm Shirley's daughter. I work for the Internal Revenue Service as a revenue agent, and I actually work with tax-exempt organizations. So I see organizations like ANG and EGA all the time. I've worked here for about 3 years. So I was going to answer some common questions about what does it mean to be tax exempt and how to become tax exempt for your ANG chapter. And I'll also be answering some questions that I received beforehand, and if you have questions during the presentation, we can talk about those too. So I'm going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint. Okay, can someone unmute and let me know? Shirley, can you let me know? Can you see this?
Yes, I do see it.
Okay. All right, so like I said, I currently work for the Internal Revenue Service in our TEGE division, which is tax exempt government entities, and I specialize in exempt organizations. I've worked here for about 3 years, and I also have my bachelor's in accounting. I just want to let everyone know that this is just an informational presentation based on my personal and professional experience. This doesn't constitute tax or legal advice or counsel, and I'm also not here representing the IRS. I'm just here as a private citizen sharing my experiences. So if you have any questions about your tax situation, you should consult a professional tax advisor. Also, all the information I'm sharing is publicly available. I'm not sharing any proprietary information or information that is only for internal IRS employees. So what does it mean to be tax exempt? So basically, all corporations are responsible for paying income taxes unless they can meet certain requirements. That is contained almost exclusively in the Internal Revenue Code section 501(c). Now, you may be familiar with a lot of tax-exempt organizations like charities, schools, hospitals, and churches. All of those are classified as 501(c)(3). 501(c)(3) we call the Holy Grail. It's a very, very good beneficial status. It has a lot of benefits that a lot of organizations try to reach. But there are other types of organizations that are also tax exempt that you may not be familiar with. So those include trade associations, business leagues, fraternal veterans organizations, or social clubs. So the Internal Revenue Code section 501(c) contains about 25 or so different types of organizations, and they all have different rules and requirements that they have to meet. So the benefits of tax exemption, I'm going to minimize Zoom. So obviously the biggest one is you're exempt from federal income tax. So corporations have to pay corporate income tax just like we as individuals have to pay personal income taxes. All organizations that are tax exempt obviously don't have to pay federal income tax. Oh, these are in the wrong order. Sorry about that. Also, tax-exempt organizations could be exempt from state taxes as well, depending on the situation. Now, 501(c)(3), like I mentioned, is a very, very good status, and it's held in higher regard than the other types of organizations. So for C3s, they can also receive tax-deductible contributions. So if I write a donation in cash to a 501(c)(3) ANG chapter, I can deduct that from my personal income taxes. Whereas if I give a donation to a labor union, I cannot deduct that as a charitable contribution. 501c3s are also exempt from federal unemployment tax, but that's only if you have employees. So for ANG chapters, I don't think you guys really deal with employment taxes. 501c3s also get reduced postal rates with the USPS. And you also have the ability to apply for grants, other funds, and you can also receive gifts and bequests from corporations, other nonprofits, other for-profit entities, and government agencies. So specifically for ANG, I've had a lot of questions about should an ANG chapter try to go for 501c3 or another one. The most common one would be 501c7, which are social clubs. So 501c3 to some is organizations that are charitable, religious, educational, or similar, and they serve the public. 501c7, which an ANG chapter could also qualify for, are social clubs. So they are organized for pleasure, recreation, or similar purposes. Their purpose is to have commingling of the members, is what we say, commingling of the members. So you have different members hanging out. So what is the difference between a C3 charity and a C7 social club? So C3 charities are, like I said, they're charitable or educational in nature. They serve the public and not just the members. So you can have member-only events, but you have to give your benefits to the general public as a whole. You cannot just wholly exclude the general public. You can derive your income from anywhere, either from the public or from your members, and you absolutely cannot engage in any political or legislative activities. So the club cannot endorse or oppose candidates for election, and the club cannot endorse or oppose propositions, measures, anything on the ballot. Now, social clubs, on the other hand, like I mentioned, they're social or recreational, and they're the opposite of C3s in that they are supposed to only serve the members and they have to exclude the public. And they actually have a special rule where even though they're considered tax exempt, any income that doesn't come from a member is taxable. So if you've ever seen or been to like a country club or a golf club, they won't let you in if you're a non-member. Even if you're a paying customer and you want to eat at the golf club's restaurant, if you're not a member, they won't let you in. And this is probably the reason why, because they're tax exempt under 501c7. They don't want to have to deal with the paperwork of paying income taxes on your income or the income that you give them. So they just exclude all non-members, and it's way easier for them to do that. So the IRS says if a organization can qualify for more than one status, you're allowed to pick whichever one is best for you, whichever one gives you the best advantage. And they don't care, but they won't correct you if you pick one and really you qualify for one that's better. So I would say most ANG chapters can very easily meet 501c3. So I recommend for your organization to go for C3 if you can. C7 is an objectively lesser status. So if you can meet C3, you should go for C3. If not, C7 is also tax exempt and has a lot of benefits as well. So I believe a lot of ANG members are also familiar with EGA, Embroidery Guild of America, I believe. I think a lot of you guys are members of both organizations, and they're both tax exempt, but they're structured a lot differently. So you may be wondering why, as an ANG chapter, you would even need to consider tax exempt status when you know there's EGA chapters and they don't have to deal with all this stuff. Well, EGA operates under a group exemption. So EGA National is a parent, and the local chapters, we call them subordinates, but they're like children. So EGA promises the IRS that they are going to look after their own children. And so the IRS says, okay, great, we're not going to deal with them. EGA National, you're going to deal with them. Whereas ANG National, they don't look after their own children. So all you ANG chapters, you're adults, you're kicked out of the house, so you got to take care of yourself. So basically what EGA does is they send their tax return to the IRS, and it looks something like this. Dear IRS, these are all my children, or all of my EGA chapters that I had during the year. And then that way, the EGA chapters, they don't have to send anything to the IRS because EGA National did it for them. ANG National doesn't do this, so that's why all the ANG chapters have to consider tax exemption for themselves individually. So we've talked about the benefits of 501c3, and I'm going to focus on C3 at this point because it is a much better status than 501c7. But if you have questions on 501c7 as a social club, please let me know, and I can also talk about C7. But sticking to just C3, there are certain restrictions that these organizations have. So like I mentioned before, the organization cannot engage in any political or lobbying activities, and you cannot make any political or lobbying expenditures. As a personal private citizen, you're more than welcome to do so, but when you represent your chapter, you're unable to endorse or oppose candidates or endorse or oppose any ballot measures. You can also not use any of the chapter funds for personal use or pay for personal expenses. This is what we call inurement or private benefit. So if you take the ANG credit card and start paying for, your shopping trips, or sometimes we see tax-exempt organizations paying the president's mortgage, that's a no-go. The money has to be separate, just for the chapter, and then the personal income and the personal expenses are separate. Lastly, again, I mentioned this before, the activities must be open to the public. It can't just be exclusive to members. You can have certain events that are exclusive, like let's say board meeting, like a meeting like this, for example. You can have board meetings or special committee meetings that are not for the public, they're for members or board members only. But your general activities should be for the public. I didn't put this on the slide, but you also cannot discriminate based on race, gender, nationality, disability, things like that as well, which is pretty, makes sense. All right, so the requirements of C3, how do you be tax exempt? Before you even consider applying, what will you have to do if you are tax exempt? So number one is you have to file annual returns with the IRS. They are much, much shorter generally than your personal income taxes, your 1040. They can be very easy to fill out, but you will have to send them in once a year. If you don't send in your return after 3 years in a row, you will lose your tax exempt status. That's called auto revocation. So if you want to have the tax exempt status, you want to make sure that someone in your organization will be prepared to send in this form once a year. Number two is you need to maintain your financial records. So this includes a general ledger, income statement, and balance sheet. Financial records can actually be really easy to maintain, even if you don't have an accounting background. But if your chapter is a little bit bigger, you may want to consider purchasing software or hiring a tax accountant who can help you with these records. Lastly, you also need to always keep your organizational documents. So basically your founding documents. So articles of incorporation, bylaws, things like that. So I'm going to go into more detail into those three. So a lot of people want to know about the annual return. It's called the Form 990. So on the screen here, I have a chart, and the form you file is based on, sorry, I can't hear the traffic outside. The form you file is based on your gross income. Gross income is all the income that you earned during the year without taking into account expenses. So you earned $15,000 in income, not deducting expenses, or you earned $50,000 or $100,000. That is what we are going to use. So it's my understanding that most ANG chapters will fall under this first line, which is less than $50,000 of gross income a year. So you can file the Form 990N, which we actually call a postcard. It's the size of a postcard, and all you do is just put the name of your organization and your organization's number, and you just say, yes, we are still tax exempt, and yes, we had less than $50,000 a year. Super easy, takes about 5 minutes to file. So if you're worried about the annual filing requirement and you have less than $50,000, it's very, very easy. Now, if you have more than $50,000 in gross income, you'll need to file the Form 990EZ, which is a short form of our annual return. It is much more involved, and it is very lengthy, but it is not the worst version of it. So I don't think many chapters will fall under this category, but if your chapter, for example, has more than $200,000 in gross income in a year, or your assets are worth more than $500,000, then you will need to file the long Form 990, which is about 11 pages, 10 schedules, and that one's a little bit involved. So at that point, you may want to get a tax accountant. But again, I think most ANG chapters would fall under the postcard section, which is very easy. So number two of being tax exempt is you need to maintain your financial records. The minimum you need to maintain them for is 3 years. So that means that you need to keep at least 3 years back. So we're in the year 2022 right now. You would want to have 2021, 2020, and 2019 records as well. You can keep them electronically on a computer, flash drive, or you can keep paper copies, or both. The IRS likes both, if you can. Sometimes the financial records can be very, very simple. You could just do it on Excel, or you may want to pay for software like QuickBooks or hire an accountant to help you keep these books. And these numbers that you keep in your financial records, they are going to match your Form 990. So you want to keep everything together and everything should match. So the larger your organization, the more you want to think about having someone who's experienced in accounting so they can make sure everything matches up and that you have someone who knows how to prepare a balance sheet and an income statement, things like that. Okay, and lastly, you want to keep your essential organizational documents forever. As long as your chapter is in existence, you have to keep these on you at some point. Or somewhere, someone in your organization needs to keep them. So almost all organizations will have articles of incorporation or articles of association. That's the very basic organizational document that says what the name of your organization is and what your purpose is. You always want to keep those. I believe Angie chapters also have bylaws, and I think you have something like rules and regulations. You have some other documents. You also want to keep those.
Standing rules. We have standing rules.
Oh, standing rules, right. Yeah, you always want to keep a copy of your standing rules, bylaws. If you have a conflict of interest policy, things like that, you would always keep those documents with you. And then lastly, you want to keep the determination letter, which is the letter that the IRS sends you when they grant you the tax exempt status. So they'll send you a letter saying, hey, congratulations, you are a tax exempt organization, and here's everything you need to do. You want to keep a copy of that. If you don't have a copy of it currently, you can request it from the IRS. And I have details in the comments of my PowerPoint, so I can let you know what form you need to send and what address you need to send it to. The IRS can also send what's called an affirmation letter. Basically, they'll send you a letter that just says, yes, you are tax exempt. Good to go. And that one takes a lot less time to get because the determination letter, they have to go through your files and make a copy of it. And sometimes that can take a long time, but they can just write you an affirmation letter and that serves the same purpose as a determination letter. So you could do that as well. Okay, so let's say that all of these sounds pretty doable. So you're interested in tax exempt status for your chapter. How do I get tax exempt status for my chapter? So before applying for your tax exempt status, you need to
Audrey, can I ask a real quick question? All the guidelines that you just went through are for 501c3, correct?
Yes,
not a C7.
Correct. There is a lot of overlap with C7. Would you like me to go for C7 after?
I would like to see that, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So before applying for your tax exempt status, you need to determine what type of organization you are. Angie chapters will either be a corporation or an association. So corporations are incorporated in the state. So either state of California, state of Washington, state of Oregon. Unincorporated associations are just a gathering of people who decide that they are going to create an association. And you need at least 2 people to make an association. That one's a little bit easier because you don't have to deal with the state, but corporations are much more official since you have paperwork with the state. So most tax exempt organizations are corporations. So number 2 is you want to actually either gather your organizational documents if you already have them, or you want to create them if you don't have them. So if you're a corporation, you would have articles of incorporation, or if you're an association, you'll have articles of association. The IRS has certain language that needs to be in these articles, and I can give the website of for publication 557. Publication 557 lists the required language that needs to be in your articles of incorporation or association. And that required language ties back to the requirements that I had listed earlier. So it says things like you do not carry on propaganda or influence legislation or political activities. It'll say the income will not personally benefit any private citizen. It's meant for the general public, things like that. Next, if you are a corporation, you want to determine what your state's requirements are. Some states require extra requirements that the IRS doesn't. Some of them kind of match them. So like I said, the required language in your bylaws or your articles of incorporation, some states have extra language that they want in as well. So the IRS website has a list of links to every state in the US, and it'll send you to that state's website where they will tell you what they want for a tax exempt organization. And then lastly, before you apply for tax exempt status, you need to have an EIN or an employer identification number. An EIN is basically a social security number, except for organizations instead of humans. So even if you're not an employer, like you don't have employees, all organizations will need to have an EIN. So if you don't already have an EIN, you can apply for one with the IRS using form SS4, and you can easily do that online. It doesn't take very long to apply for an EIN. So again, I can go over, I'll send out this PowerPoint. Shirley, can I send out this PowerPoint after? Or you can attach it to the minutes so people can have the links?
Yes, you can. And just want to point out EGA, all the chapters already have EIN numbers. That's the difference. We're kind of like on our own.
Right, yeah. Yeah, EGA takes care of its children. Okay, so now you're ready to apply for tax exempt status. You may be wondering about the cost of tax exempt status. So I had made this little chart. So I said before gross income, which is all the income you receive during the year without taking into account any expenses. If that amount is less than $5, you can become tax exempt for $0. Actually, if you make less than $5,000 a year, you actually don't have to apply for tax exempt status at all. You can just start operating as a tax exempt organization and filing a Form 990 every year. The IRS doesn't want to deal with all the paperwork if you're so small. So you don't actually have to apply for tax exempt status if you make less than $5,000 a year. If you make between $5,000 and $50,000 a year, you can apply using what we call a streamlined Form 1023. 1023 is the application form to become tax exempt, and they have a streamlined form if you make between $5,000 and $50,000. And I believe that form is processed automatically by a computer. It's not looked at by humans, so it goes by very, very quickly. You can receive your tax exempt status very quickly. But if your organization has more than $50,000 in gross receipts, you'll need to apply using the regular Form 1023. And I believe most of those are reviewed by actual human beings, other revenue agents like myself. So that one will take a lot longer. But I've listed the fees over here, the minimum and the maximum cost depending on how you go about applying for your tax exempt status. And here, you would apply using Form 1023. This should say 50,000 in gross receipts. You can apply using a streamlined Form 1023 easy. I think this is the end of my presentation, and we had a question about C7. So I'm going to go back to C7. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so 501c7 social clubs. They are also exempt from federal income tax, and they also can potentially be exempt from state taxes as well. Social clubs are treated a little bit differently than some of the other organizations. So where did I have it written? Here. So for social clubs, all income that doesn't come from a member is taxable. So this is generally, like, let's say you have a golf club or a country club, things like that, and you have a restaurant and you have facilities and people come and they pay. They come to play golf or they come to eat at the restaurant. Anyone who comes to eat at your restaurant, for example, who isn't a member, the money that they give the club is taxable.
So
to,
Audrey, what about lemonade sales? We often sell leftover canvases and threads, and general public sometimes buy them. So that's considered taxable?
if you are classified as a social club, yes, that income would be taxable, unfortunately. That's why I really recommend 501c3, because I think it would be pretty easy for most of your chapters to meet 501c3. And
So
That
that
way-
means, sorry to break in. So
No.
we often have workshops and we invite other chapters to participate in these workshops. So because they're a member of A&G, but not a member of our chapter, all their income, that income will be taxable too. Is that correct?
yes, I think there's special rules for like sister clubs, but generally, yes, that would be taxable. So here's the issue with C7. And actually, you know what? Let me start a new slide so I can write this down. Okay. The IRS doesn't, they're kind of mean towards social clubs. It's not very fair, but this is what we got. So 501c7. Any income not from a member is taxable. In addition, you cannot have no more than 35% of your income can be from non-members. So what they want is the majority of your income coming from members. They do not want your income coming from anywhere else. And then no more than 15% of your income can be from non-member use of club funds. Okay, I know that doesn't make sense, but here. Any income that's not from a member is taxable. So this would be sale of merchandise to non-members, non-member use of club facilities. So if you have a clubhouse and you let a non-member rent it out, that income is taxable. This also includes interest and dividends, and any investment income. So if your bank account earns interest, that also counts against you, and that is also taxable. So it gets kind of sticky with C7s.
Are there any advantages of the 501c7 over the C3 for like an organization like us?
Asking that question right now,
Oh, it's Leslie.
Leslie,
Star.
I think, let me, Audrey, can you stop sharing for a moment? Leslie, I think we're going to answer that question right now.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, I am?
Oh, Shirley, you muted. Oh, Shirley, you're still muted. Shirley, we can't hear you. She has to unmute.
Are you talking?
Yeah, I think she's talking, but she's muted.
Okay, I'm not
There
muted
you go.
anymore.
Thank
Okay,
you.
what I'm gonna do is share screen. I apologize for that. Let me share the screen. Can you see that? Can you see this part?
We can see Chrome, and you just opened a new tab.
Okay. All right. So what we just did, and that was actually part of the bylaws. The bylaws have been, there's a new format just uploaded in February of this year. And in there, the model bylaws, the instructions. So Leslie, I just was looking at this and I need Audrey to be sure. The objectives, oh, here is the bylaws. It has to be like it talks about the 501c3s. I believe, okay, so Article 2 objectives. Section 4 requires a decision. Do you want your chapter to be a tax exempt? If so, you must file the 501c3 with IRS and thereby following its requirements. If you choose not to do so, then you don't, then you don't do it. You just register. You just register with your Commonwealth simply as a nonprofit entity. We don't have the 501c3 because I believe that you're under as A and G, they are 501c3s. So if you're a C7 and you prevent people or as members only, it violates the parent. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So is that correct, Audrey? Because it doesn't give the chapters a choice. It's either one, C3, or just simply register.
Yes, so your national chapter says that you can only be C3 or nothing at all. I can't remember though what the IRS says. I know that there are some instances where you can be different from the parent, but I don't remember in this scenario, if the parent is a C3, can the child be a C7? But regardless, your national chapter, it looks like they only want you to be a C3.
And from your bullets, it seemed to make more sense to be a C3.
Yes, I think the only benefit of being a C7 over a C3 is if you really are for members only. If you really are exclusive to members, you don't want to offer your activities to everybody, it's just members. Then it's really easy to meet those requirements of excluding non-members and keeping members only. Other than that, it would make more sense to be a C3 and there's more benefits.
And to be quite honest, it's going to make it awkward for workshops, selling merchandise, you know, and you do have public events, you know, especially with Needle Artists by the Sea. Can you imagine trying to hold your exhibits and it's not open just to members, it's open to the public? Do I mean all the entry fees? That would be taxable. All of it would be taxable. So that will be a nightmare. And but it doesn't really matter. I don't think you have the choice anyway. That's one to show the bylaws. Okay.
Audrey, I had a question about the, you said that if you're a C3, that you have to be for the public and not only members. And basically, I believe that it's we have to be a member of the A&G National. And then we let people come to our general meetings 2 or 3 times, but then they have to decide that they want to join. We have other things like Shirley was mentioning, a workshop where you let other people come, but the majority of time, it seems like it's for members or they're doing something philanthropic and giving back to the community. Does that knock us out of being a C3?
No, it doesn't. It's just C3s generally aren't membership organizations, but it's definitely possible. So
Okay.
what Shirley was mentioning, your other events, as long as you have some events that cater to the public and you encourage the public to come and check out what you're doing, that's fine.
Okay.
And then a question from Jan. I'm sorry, Leslie, did you have anything else?
Oh, that was Mary. I did have
Okay, I'm sorry, Mary.
question that probably a lot of people are interested in. I know you said that as a C3, we could get reduced postal rates, which is very interesting because we ship out a lot of things to our members.
Now Audrey is not qualified.
Provide later.
Okay, so Mary, we can talk about that because Audrey, as an IRS agent, is not qualified to discuss that type of benefits. But
Okay, it was just mentioned, so I thought maybe.
But we will talk, but that's a good question. Okay, so I think Jan, you had your hand up?
Well, I did, but I had the same question she had.
Oh, okay.
So I raised my hand.
Shirley, this is Leslie again. I do have another question.
No,
And maybe you're gonna get to it.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm getting that we should consider 501c3.
Mhm.
I'm not sure whether we should even bother with it at all, because our situation is our funds are less than 10,000.
Mhm.
Our income for the year is less than 2,000.
Right.
So it's like, why even bother?
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
That's a good question. I'm not discounting that, Leslie. I think this is outside of Audrey's. It's weighing the difference, but it's outside her purview. So if there's anything we can stop this presentation or have her exit out, we'll still record because we can have this conversation. That's a good question.
So
Guys,
I do have one more, Shirley.
Sure. Go ahead.
So by nature of the fact that payments received from members
Mhm.
are cash payments made to the organization, if we are a 501c3, those are tax deductible to our members.
Audrey, you want to answer that?
Let me double check. I believe it's no though, because it's not a donation, you're paying for goods or services in return, which is membership benefits. So for example, like if you buy something at a Goodwill store, even though you're technically giving money to a charity, you bought clothing, so it doesn't count as a donation. So that would be something similar, but I'm gonna double check that. And the question about postal rates, I have just looked that up and I will drop in the chat. There is a form you can submit to the USPS, and it looks like it's about a 40% discount on postal, which is pretty good if you guys mail a lot. So I will send all those resources out, and I think Shirley, you'll probably send out minutes after or something, so we can include those.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Audrey? Now, she's also has offered herself after work, if your chapter wants to have her with your board to have a discussion. So I will send you her email if you're interested. But any other questions relating to that? And then we'll address, Leslie's questions and everything. Oh, and the way the pros and cons, why bother doing that? Okay, what's the purpose? And we'll go through that. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much, Audrey, for taking the time. And I will pass along her presentation and the recording you can share with your other board members and with her contact information in case you have any more information. All right, Audrey. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. So you want to zip? Okay, good. She's out. All right. Oh, thank you so much, Jen. I'll let her know. Okay, so let's go to Leslie's question, and all of you too. You're thinking, is it really worth the hassle going through or not? Right? That's because it's not necessarily faint of heart. It does take a little bit of doing. So it depends where your chapter wants to go. And I'm going to speak from, and Jan, I'm glad Jan is here. I'm going to speak from at least SDA&G's viewpoint. We have been a 501c3 for at least since the inception of our chapter, 35 years. And by the way, I had to put in about the determination letter because we lost ours. So I just had to send for ours again. And what we have found that, yes, you get postal rates, 40% off, but we also get a lot of nonprofit discounts, such as PayPal. Okay. Yes, PayPal, people have to pay a fee, but I have to tell you that people love to pay everything through PayPal, even though if we could charge, we absorb the fee through increasing a little bit to absorb that cost. But people are used to the Amazon way of buying, and that's how I like to refer it. Actually, that's a preferred method. Do you want to chime in on this, Jan? What have you found?
Absolutely. I would hazard to guess we get 75% of our dues and probably equally that in our workshop fees via PayPal.
Right. And you see, if we need to attract new members, and I know a lot of you are at, very small membership. I have to tell you that a lot of the kids and a lot of Audrey's age, and you know that with your own family, who has checks anymore? Honestly.
Shirley and Jan, what size are your guilds? Like how many members?
We have 210.
Okay.
205.
And Jan, are you in the same one?
I'm in that one, and I'm also in another one, Palomar Mountain Stitchers, and we're sub 30, but and don't offer PayPal at this juncture.
And so you're not 501c3. Okay.
We are, both of them are 501c3.
Yeah, okay. But you have less than 30 members in Palomar. Okay.
So I just learned that you can apply like Zoom. Zoom, there's a discount, for membership fees. I'm doing Canva. Canva is a graphic artist website. If you supply your documents, you can get that for free. So that's the thing. There's a lot of things there are for nonprofits at a discounted rate, even for QuickBooks. Okay. But it really is a matter of your chapter, which direction you want to go. It makes easier for people to donate bequests and all that, because it's a 501c3, if they can donate money or goods and services. So you can tell I'm championing for 501c3, but I do get it. It can be a bit of a headache to maintain it every year, but it's not so much of a headache. It's just a postcard. So that's my soapbox on that one. Does that answer your question, Leslie?
Mhm.
It's,
Yes.
it's very chapter specific, how you want to do this. Okay.
Well, and I guess I would ask Jan again the question for Palomar Mountain. I mean, since it's only 30 members, do you see a benefit for being a 501c3 for that small chapter?
We've been a 501c3 long before I was involved. And Jan Wilson or Karen Farrow may be able to answer that better. But
So you just continued with okay,
Well,
thank you.
if it's just submitting a postcard and you went through all the hassle to get it, do you really want to lose it?
Right, yeah, I
No.
could see that.
Yeah, so why do that? It's a simple postcard. You don't want to lose that status. But Jan and Karen, you want to talk to it? No?
Well, go ahead. Jan is our treasurer, so.
I was going to say, I believe that we've been a 401c from the very beginning. So I'm one of the charter members, and I can't remember being not being a 401c. And the postcard is super easy to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, there's very few years where we go over $5,000 in income. If we have a fundraiser, then we may hit that, but with just chapter dues and
Yeah, it's not.
that kind of stuff, we don't typically. So
So I guess,
we have it if we need it.
yeah, I'm just trying to decide if we even should get it.
Mhm.
And I maybe it goes back to your question, Shirley, what do we want to do it going forward?
How to leverage it. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe you want to start about that because we'll have to talk about membership later on, eventually. Dorothy.
I was going to say, we're considered a pretty small chapter too. We've got about, 30 to 40 members. We've been 501c3 for as long as the chapter has been around, which was in the 90s. And it really isn't a big issue. And I don't recall hearing that it was really a big issue filing the paperwork to achieve that status.
Yeah, that I was thinking about that too. So that's good to know.
Mhm. Okay, any other comments about that? Okay, I hope you found that informative. And we'll have, if you have any other guests that you would like me to bring on, I will. In the past, we had Gail Dow for parliamentary bylaws, parliamentary procedure, and but she stepped down. So hopefully maybe we'll get the new person in. Okay, so for the agenda, for those who got it, we're going to do a seminar update. And let's see, Karen was there, Jan was there, I was there, Kim was there. Who else was there to a seminar? Oh, Susan was there. Carly, of course. She's a board member. Anyone else? Okay, so, well, we have a lot. And of course, those who are there, please chime in. And especially Carly, I want to talk about the 50-50 campaign. It's really exciting. The Golden Needle Society has ended their 10-year campaign of collecting funds. And now we're starting in September. Is it September 9th, Carly? That is actually the 50-year founding, is it 9th, of A&G?
The 9th or the 7th, I can't remember which, but it's what the date of our founding, our corporation 50 years ago.
Right, and we're starting a campaign for the next 2 years. We'll like to have everyone, if the 50-50 is to, as everyone as much as possible to donate a minimum of $50 to national or more. You see, what's happening is that the Golden Needle campaign was very successful. but the way I believe the IRS structure and the way the fund was structured, we could only use part of the interest, which, you know, was not enough to sustain our national. We really want to overhaul the website, and we've heard many from you how awkward it is and everything. So we are on a campaign to have website, to increase our membership, to really do a lot of the fun and structural things that we need to do to propel our chapter forward. Did I get that right, Carly? So
Yeah, yeah, and in order to attract new members, we have to become more technologically savvy.
we do, and even you have crabbed about how you know, clunky the website is. So we really need to put a lot of effort in, and it will benefit all of us. So I was pleased to find out that at seminar we already raised over $10,000, right? Carla, was it more? 10, right?
No, it was over 5. I don't think it was over 10.
Oh, over 5. Okay. All right. Well, at least it's 5. So, and there's going to be a round of great incentives. Marilyn Owen has created a book for stitches. It's really wonderful. And it's going to be coming out in September, different stitches. Tony Gertis created a special design. It's called, it's hearts, but what was it called? I'm sorry?
Heartstring.
Heartstring. It's really pretty. So it's a design if you can get, if you donate a certain amount to the 50/50 campaign. And they're thinking of more incentives as well. In fact, I just emailed Barbara. I think Barbara Evans, the VP of membership, she's on that committee to come up with more incentives. So it's more to come. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of fun. So around September 7th or 9th, whichever prime day it is. No, 9th is not a prime number, odd number. Look for it. I'm sure there'll be messages from National. And one thing I want to talk to you also, we also got the schedule for next year. So for those who went, I know you guys have your handbook, right? And on the back is next year's seminar. So I know you can't see it. So I'm going to do share screen because what I did was let's see, I have it here. Yeah, it's the Atlanta schedule for 2023. So this is exciting. Unfortunately, I can't tell you, we don't have pictures yet because it won't be until the next issue. But let me take this out. Let me take this out and cut this out. Oops, I can't. I have to cancel, sorry. Okay, if you can see this already, Terry Bay is going to be teaching, Curdy Biggs, Janet Ziegler Casey. Isn't this exciting? And you will also know the dates already. So if you want to start planning, that's a fantastic one. Now, would you guys like me to send this out to you, or you want to wait? Oh, this is a yes? Okay. All right. I'll send this out. I think at least you can start planning. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now it's going to be down to 5 days. So here's the teachers, so we're going to pack for fun. Opening, closing banquet. We'll be there. I mean, so, and then you can start matching the canvas to the workshop. I have to tell you, Larry the Patchwork Lion. Oh my God, it doesn't look gorgeous. This Patchwork Lion by Tony Gertis. Whew. Oh well. What do you guys think? What did Jan, Karen, the other Jan, you guys saw that one? Carly?
Yes, all that.
All that. Oh,
Really good classes.
I know. Any favorites, guys? What?
Said they're gorgeous for next year.
They're all gorgeous. They're all gorgeous. So in any case, there you go. So I'll send that out. I think that's pretty cool. We'll do that.
When are the photos going to be up on the website?
That I don't know, I'll be honest with you. I'm assuming in a couple months from now. And as well as pictures from the winners from the exhibit. There were some fantastic one. I should have shown the picture, I don't have it with me, of the carousel by Jonathan Brown. He flew all the way from Scotland and he won, I think, Judge's Choice of the Year or something like that. It was really fun. He actually, it could go around. He stitched all these horses and the carousel, and you can crank it up and it actually goes around in a circle. He showed us that. That was really pretty cool.
And played music.
Oh yeah, and played music. That's right. But the other exhibits was just as really, really nice. Very, very nice. So in any case, for those who went to seminar, anything you want to share? That was just a lot of fun. Well, SDNG chapter, we had our own hospitality room. And we will have another one in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you come out to Atlanta, come by and see us. I'm going to try to persuade the board to make margaritas in the hospitality room. Yep. Hey, why not? Just bring a blender and a margarita mix, a lot of lemons or limes. That'll be a lot of fun. It's a margarita salt. Okay. All right.
We should do a shout out to the Tucson chapter because they did an excellent job of
Oh, they did.
Really great job.
Oh, yeah. Because
It was
that was a
wonderful.
lot. That was a lot of work. Yeah, they did. And after a 2-year, I know they were held up because of COVID. So to come back, they came back really strong.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. So the other one, okay, so let's go down the line, website improvement update. Okay, so let me tell you, even though we haven't done they haven't started on the website yet, there are some updates currently that we can use. So we saw, yeah, let me take this out, these pictures here. Okay, if you go and do the search for the bylaws, you can come up under the first line, the model bylaws, as well as the template. Okay, so for those who are doing the bylaws, or in fact, SDNG, we're going to be updating ours, and especially since, the pandemic, it's highlighted a lot of changes we need to do, like meetings and things. So here it is right here. I think the bold and are required language. Okay, so she has step-by-step instructions. It's really good. There's the letter from Gail. And even though this is new chapter start here, this is good for all other chapters when we have to update. So this is an excellent model to go by. Okay. Now, another thing is under chapters, right
So
here.
before you leave there,
Sure.
for those of us that updated our bylaws in 2021
Mm-hmm.
or using the 2018 template, we
Right.
don't need to immediately turn around and revise them again.
No,
Or
you don't need to.
Okay.
But I would recommend at least looking at it, maybe
okay,
because, a lot of things have changed, maybe the way you vote and things
Okay.
like that. By the way, and in this, the instructions, there's no proxy voting and you cannot vote by email. So something if you have it in there, you may have to take that out or revise it. Okay.
Is
So-
there, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there something that says you have to revise them or look over your bylaws every so many years?
There's not a requirement, but it's best practice that you do. I know a lot of people have not revised them in the 1990s, but you should look at it because there are new IRS guidelines. And I view bylaws like a good pair of a girdle or a bra. I know it's not sexy, but you have to have a good foundation because things do break out, and having a good good set of bylaws will help the chapter and help the boards there. Does anyone know the difference between the bylaws and the standing rules? It's a quick quiz.
Standing rules are the way you handle your meetings, aren't they? Like where they are and what time and everything.
Well, you're very good, Barbara. It's very close. The standing rules dictate the process of how things are done. The bylaws are kind of like the general rules, and the standing rules is the process of achieving that. Okay. And the good thing about doing the standing rules, you can change the standing rules at any time without going through national. Okay. You may need to have a voting, your chapter may have to vote on it, but it's not required to go through national. Now I know that Gail, when she was in her position, she did as a courtesy to review standing rules, but generally she didn't do that unless you asked. Did I answer your question, everybody? Okay, so another exciting thing on the chapter, I'm going to go back to here now. So oftentimes we come here, this is our new website. And here's the chapter annual report. Now, for all those who are new to being a board member, the chapter annual report must be filed within 30 days or 60 days after your election, whether you elected the same people or not. We need to know your chapter is still active, right? Now, here's a map of all how it's broken down, and you are in my area. I have 29 of you, so this is just a quick thing. This is who we are here. Oh, and this is where you also, here's the regional, but here's the, wait.
The report.
Oh yeah, and you scroll down, and this is where since you're in a Western area, you're going to scroll down and get to how to fill this out. And it's kind of easy. You just find your chapter, right? First and last name. The people who should be filling out ideally is someone from the previous board, because what happens is that Frontline will change the names out, and only then will the new board have access to the membership roster and the project chapter book, all of that. Without that, you know, the new board is kind of stuck. Now, this is a question I get all the time, the chapter website. So A&G has a find a chapter list. This is for the public. I want to contact, you know, the Tucson chapter. So here's the blind email address that was created by National. It's just a one-way, it's a one-way thing. I, as a member of the public, I want to know, hey, when's the next time, you know, I want to email a question. It goes to whoever you want that email pointed to, okay? And if you change it, all you have to do is go to the chapter annual report, you know, find your, you know, and you can do it at any time. You can submit, if there are changes in your chapter, it doesn't have to wait until the election. You can make these changes. So if you change your meeting location or even who should have the chapter website, the contact name, this is what I meant to say. It has my name, but because this is my laptop, you could be anybody you want and that contact person's name. Okay, so if you want Barbara Jean to be on here, changing from Jean Smith, then this is where you put that down. Okay, any questions about that? No, it's pretty simple. Okay, so, and that's really great. We've been asking all the area reps to have a really easier way to find this. Now, one thing I do want to show really quick, and I know that because we have new people, the great thing is that all of you as a group, and I have more, you know, Carly and I, because we're on a national, we have a lot of groups that we belong to. So you all belong to the Western chapter leaders, okay? And this is where I, through the chapter annual report, this list gets refreshed. And this is how I send you all the emails, okay? These are all members, 788 registered members in our chapter. Of course, you're not going to send an email to them. I'm not here. And all of you are with the leaders, chapter leaders, and this is national. So this is the cool thing, guys. This is where you can buy the chapter president's pin. Some of you have asked about that. You want to know what the chapter project book is? It's right here. It's your acknowledgement and links. And you know what the great thing is? See, it goes back to 1987 when it starts. Okay. So you can go back there to present. They have digitized all of it. Any questions about this area here? Okay, great. So now what we'll do is I'll stop share. And then the final thing we're going to do, is a demonstration of equipment of a hybrid Zoom and in-person meeting. Okay, so let me stop the share.
Already there.
Okay, so SCA&G, we do a hybrid. So oftentimes, let me see, I have my iPad, okay, and I use my cell phone. And then what I do is I also have other equipment. So let me start that. And I know there are people who have done the same as well. Well, let me do this. Okay. So here's something called a visualizer. It's really a document camera. So I'm going to plug it in now. Okay. And it should turn into, wait, it was before. Okay. Let's see. I may have to stop the screen. Let me pause this.